Oh, I need my glowworm. Hey there, welcome back to my channel, String Things by Mel. My name is Melissa. I'm a stay-at-home mom living in Vancouver, Canada, and on my channel, I chat and share everything about my knitting hobby. Welcome to another podcast episode, my monthly update, everything I've been kind of working on, everything I've finished, so FOs, whips, some acquisitions. We've got a little bit of everything for this month. It is April and it's near the end of April. Not quite the end, but getting close. And this month has really just got away from me. Um, a little slow or lacking on content this month, and partly because I just wasn't feeling kind of inspired or motivated to do anything. I haven't even done any kind of computer work to prep for other content. That's just the kind of month it's been. It's my birthday month. It was my birthday, and it's just been a really busy activity month for Darcy. She's after spring break, back in preschool 3 days a week, swim class twice a week, ballet once a week. I didn't realize how tired I would be from driving back and forth and participating in all those activities. So that's mostly the reason why I haven't been creating content, extra content, but I have been very busy and motivating knitting wise. So I do have lots to update you guys on. So let's go ahead and get started with today's program. I'm wearing a finished object, which is the Hannah Cardigan My Size. This is something I test knit for my friend Sarah, who is Noelle Knits, and this is her first adult pattern. She's done mainly children's knitwear, and this is an adult version of a pattern, first pattern that she released last year by the name Hannah Cardigan, named after her daughter. This is an all over half fisherman's rib v-neck opening, drop shoulders, and it is just so cozy, so swishy, especially perfect for today. It is very kind of dark and rainy. Up until this point, spring has been great. It's been very sunny, borderline not cool enough to wear sweaters anymore. Today, not so much. We're in for about a week of rain, but that's all right. So my version, I have used Knit Picks palette, the bare yarn, the undyed one, which comes in 100-gram skeins, almost about 400 meters each. I used 5 of those, so about 500 grams of a fingering weight yarn held double, and I have knit size 2. No modifications other than on the end of my cardigan, I did fewer rows of ribbing. So I did the amount of half fisherman's rib that you're supposed to, but I did fewer rows of ribbing just because I wasn't sure if I wanted that long of ribbing. Like I wasn't sure if that look kind of went with it, so I cut my ribbing short. So my final overall length is just a few, like 3 centimeters shorter than the standard length from the pattern. So you have some different options. So I did a standard length, so the full length, and I also did the 1x1 rib button band. There's also the option to do a double knit button band, and some of the testers did a cropped length. So I think when I make another one, maybe next year, I would do want to make another one. I'd like to do the cropped version with a double knit button band and go down a size. So the idea of this one doing size 2, it gives me about 25 centimeters, almost 10 inches of positive ease, which is quite a lot, quite a big slouchy fit. The V-neck is a bit deep on me. I mean, you can't tell it because of my t-shirt underneath, but it's pretty low. And that is okay because the intention with an oversized one is that I would, of course, wear a t-shirt underneath, even tank tops, things like that. The idea of making another one a size down would be something that's a little bit more fitted, possibly do that like closed look, like the cardigan is my top kind of thing. So that's the plan with the next one. I just don't know what color I want to make it out of yet. So something for later. um, what else can I say about this? Oh, my buttons. My buttons are on the smaller end of the suggested size for buttons. I believe it was 15 millimeters to 20 millimeters is the suggested button size. I chose 15 only because this happened to be the buttons from my stash that I really liked. I originally purchased some other buttons, which I don't know if you saw that, but um, I originally purchased some different buttons. So one option I was thinking about was using the same buttons from Darcy's Hannah cardigan on mine, but then I wasn't sure about the color. And then I also had purchased these buttons. But then when I was going through my stash and found these ones match the color of the yarn perfectly. And then it kind of goes with the, you know, barely visible, barely there kind of button look. And they're just some shank style translucent plastic buttons. And they kind of got this like swirl. They almost look like a marble. Not marble stone, but like the marble balls that you'd play with as a kid. So I'm really happy with that. They do look a little bit small compared to the width of the ribbing, but that's okay. Again, like going from color matching there. My 1x1 rib is a little janky because I suffer from rowing out. So when I work ribbing flat, you can really tell like some of, you know, the knits are clearly not the same tension throughout. It does look better now. It looked worse before blocking. Pickup rate for the button band. So I didn't follow the exact ratio in the pattern and I should have. I feel like I thought the ratio in the pattern was going to be not enough. So then I picked up more and I think I picked up too many. So I had to be very careful when this was wet and I was laying this out to dry. I picked up at a rate of, I think it was like 5 out of 7, something like that. Um, but I think that was too many, so I would pick up a little less. Something about the wearing of this garment that I wanted to show and that I've been kind of avoiding doing until now, and I'm happy that I get to do it now. There's the kind of initial purge of pilling that is happening. You can see those there all along the arm, both sides, a little bit into the armpit and the body. This happens with every garment that I make other than the ones held with mohair. I find that I have a sweater, my brown sweater that's held with mohair, and there's no pilling on that. So I guess mohair helps prevent some pilling. But I find maybe it's just like there's extra little bit of fibers still left on the yarn from me processing at the mill perhaps. And once I wear it some more, like I'll do the pill shaving, wear it some more, I find the amount of pilling generally goes down. So we'll see if that is the case with this yarn. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with this yarn. Knit Picks palette is a Peruvian wool, just like Cascade 220 fingering or Cascade 220. Those are also Peruvian wools, and I found this one worked up and looks very similar to Cascade 220. It has that same kind of loose two-ply construction and look to it. It does come in a lot of different colors if you are able to order from Knit Picks. I ordered a whole bunch of the undyed yarn thinking I was going to pair this with, say, colorful mohairs, maybe even try dyeing some myself. It is something I'm considering doing. I'm thinking about actually making a full garment and then dyeing it, but that's just, I don't know, that's something to think about much later. I know I am one of Sarah's friends, so it is a bit of a bias. Of course, I'm going to say the pattern is great, but the pattern is great. If you could see and read some of the messages that were happening in the chat for this test group, everyone's very happy. There was someone who, this was their very first cardigan they had ever made, and she wrote a little blog post about it. I will link that if I can find it. But everyone's cardigan looks great. Everyone, even if like the little modifications that everyone has done, all the colors, like This is one of those garments that's going to be, kind of classic and kind of goes with everyone's style depending on what color you choose as well. If you do cropped, if you do full length, it really is kind of one for everybody, I think. So in regards to half fisherman's rib, not just this pattern, even, not even just this stitch pattern, but in general, I'm going to provide some unsolicited advice and some recommendations. And I'm going to try to keep this brief because this is easily could be a whole separate video topic. But don't get tempted to, you're knitting this up and you might pull out your ruler, measure your whip, and think that you need to knit more. As you can see in these videos and this stills that I'm throwing up of what my cardigan looks like before blocking and post blocking, this fabric grows a lot. This particular stitch grows a lot, not only lengthwise, but widthwise as well. So it's really important when the pattern says, knit X amount of inches or centimeters, I highly recommend you take that row count from your blocked gauge swatch. So for example, if the swatch is 24 rows in 4 inches or 10 centimeters blocked, then if it says to knit 8 inches, then your row count should be 48 rows to get that 8 inches. Count your rows. Don't use your ruler to get the 8 inches because when it comes down time to block, it's not going to come out as expected. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe when you're pulling out your ruler, you stretch your fabric a bit to try to get that length. But with half fisherman's rib, I caution you to be careful with that. So really, I recommend refer to your blocked gauge swatch, count your rows rather than busting out that ruler. With regards to the final measurements of my cardigan, other than the modification I made with fewer rows of 1x1 rib, mine without the need of blocking pins blocked out exactly to the final measurements that are listed in the pattern. So, and that is because I followed the number of rows from my block gauge swatch rather than measuring my whip. Last couple notes about fit of the cardigan. If you are, looking at how mine fits, size 2, about 25 centimeters, almost 10 inches of positive ease. But do keep in mind that I am a pretty slim person, like this way and this way. So I think that contributes to why the V-neck is so deep on me because I'm really not busty. And if you look at my body, like sideways, like I'm a slim person. So I would highly recommend checking out the other photos of the testers, whether it's on Ravelry or check out the hashtag on Instagram, just for more ideas, maybe some more inspiration. Next finished object I have to share is the little bear that I knit up for Darcy. And I also, if you do follow me on Instagram, then you know, but if you didn't, I drafted up a little dress for the bear as well as requested by Darcy. So here's Mouche, all done. Mouche is a bit misshapen. One, I really should have stuffed this more, like the legs especially are like a bit floppy, but oh well, it is what it is. And Darcy sleeps with it, so, and she plays with it a lot, so which is good, like that's really good. The dress is something, well, she asked for a dress and the kind of look and the construction of the dress was kind of my idea, but she said she wanted some sort of like ballerina dress, so I made a ballerina wrap dress, and I did a bit of compound raglan shaping on the back, but forgot to do that on the front because I was writing out the increases for this part of the top, and then I forgot to adjust the rate for the front raglan, and the front raglan is not compound raglan, but the back is, so my mind just wasn't totally on top of it, but that is okay, because I think it fits fine. So one thing, I did have a comment in one of my previous videos One person said that they recommend that you stuff the animal as you go, and I totally agree with that. And that's something I do when I'm crocheting animals, especially since usually I'm using like an acrylic yarn. But since I used a wool yarn, the same one that's in my cardigan, I wanted to wash and block the bear before stuffing it, so that's why I did not stuff it as I go. And I I washed and blocked it, and honestly, I don't think it really made a difference. My stitches pretty even from the get-go, other than the bit of rowing out that I have in the yoke. So next time, I think I'll just stuff as I go because I do knit pretty evenly. I'll show you a little bit more. It's got a little tail in the back. It's a kind of a funny shape. It's like a, well, my husband was saying like, oh, it does look kind of funny, but it actually looks probably more like the proportions of an actual polar bear and not some like cutesy stuffed animal that you normally see in stores. But there it is. And so the wrap dress, so I did take measurements of the bear, and I was going for neutral or almost no ease. And I did my gauge swatches, figured out everything on my own. Um, I've done a hole here in the side so that this I-cord can go inside. So it comes through this hole and around the back, and then you close it up and tie in the front here. And so in terms of finishing, I did just a couple rows of 1 by 1 rib and then bound off in pattern on the end of the sleeves. And then for the edges here, the front edges, originally the plan was to do I-cord, which is to match the I-cord straps that I have, but it was quite bulky, so I ripped that out and instead did single crochet stitches all along the edges there. But there is I-cord along the bottom here. And so what I did was I just started knitting the I-cord and then joined and worked the stitches all along the body until I reached the other end, and then just did more I-cord until the straps were at a length that I thought would work. Also, I just used up all the yarn I had of this pink color. Otherwise, the whole entire dress would have been pink, but I ran out of yarn. So I had to use some other yarn for the skirt part. And what I did was I picked up from the I-cord and worked one even row and then increased the next row. Just every other stitch I did like a, what kind of increase did I do? I did a knit front back increase every other stitch. I didn't want it to like really come out. I didn't want to like a big A-line dress. But I think it works out nicely that the pink yarn is more of like a sport weight. It's a cotton acrylic yarn that I had in my stash. This yarn you may recognize, it's the same yarn I used for the top I wore to Flock Fiber Festival last year, my Velen tee. This is lace weight yarn held double in the color Lux Clara from Black Cat Custom Yarn. And because it is lighter, it just has a little bit more drape, which is kind of nice for a ballerina skirt. But I'm pretty proud of myself for drafting up and knitting this for the bear. It's pretty fun. Um, kind of tempted to make one for myself, just a top, not a whole dress. I don't think I'd wear a tight knit ballerina dress myself, but maybe Darcy would. It's too bad I didn't think of it sooner because she is in ballet class right now, so it would be kind of cute if she had that to wear for class. But by the time I, draft up a pattern and work on it, I think ballet class would be over. So maybe just something to add to her little tickle trunk, she's got a dress up drawer in her room where she has all her dress up clothes and things. So it's just something maybe to add to that in the future. So I'm going to put the dress back on. And yeah, ties in the back here. I'm pretty proud of how like the pickup from the I-cord looks. Very clean. I did a like a 3-stitch I-cord, so you have all the stitches live on the end here, cast on 3 stitches, and then you kind of knit 2, and then knit 2 together through the back loop to join, and then you keep repeating that around. And then, yeah, that is Mouche and the ballerina wrap dress that I drafted up. So the bear is not called, well, the bear is called Mouche from the pattern book, but Darcy has given this bear the name of Darcy Bear. Real original, right? But there she is. That's it for finished objects. Now we get to go into the whips of what I've been working on. So last month we went away for spring break and the plan was to work on a camisole while I was there. Superwash yarn, fingering weight. I thought that would just be warm weather friendly to work on. And I haven't really touched it since. I still think it will be done in time to wear in, say, July when it's warm enough to wear a camisole on its own, but this is camisole number 4. I'm just working away in the round. There's no straps on it yet. It's very dark yarn. There's the front. As per usual, I got all my stitch markers in the back here for every 10 rows, and that is how I know how long to make it, because I have, let's see, 3 more stitch markers on here. And then when I reach that point, I believe that's the end of the cami. So it's not too much more knitting, although it is kind of a lot because it is fingering weight. And it is on 3mm needles. The pattern is 3.5mm needles. I've made some modifications because I didn't like how my fabric looked on that size needle, and I've sized down, so then my triangles are going to be a little bit shorter than the pattern, but then that allows me to have more of a strap. And that's something I discussed in my last podcast episode. But since coming back from our vacation, I really haven't worked on this very much because I've decided to put priority on kind of like my cardigans. And so I had this test knit and had my Esther jacket on the needles. And that is something that I don't know where it was at last month, but I've made a lot of progress on it since. It has turned into my, I'm like looking for it. It's not in the bag. It's turned into my TV knit because, here, let me just hang it up and show you. So this is the Esther jacket from Petite Knit, one of her new patterns this year. And all over textured stitch pattern, drop shoulder, kind of crew neck closure on it. And I'm done the body. I bound off last night using Italian bind off. Again, because the ribbing is worked flat, it's looking a little, oops, a little janky, but that will block out a little bit. Otherwise, I'm not too bothered by it. It kind of shows that it's handmade. So this has become my TV knit because since getting to the point, so on the fronts, you can see where you've increased to make the neckline shape. And then after that, you just work straight and then join the fronts with the back. And pretty much since there's been no increasing or shaping, I haven't had to look at the chart. So, you know, like from here all the way down to the end, I haven't needed to look at the chart. I find this stitch pattern pretty intuitive. It is something that you have to know for both the right side and the wrong side. So you are working the stitch pattern on both. There's no sort of rest row. You are having to look at like adjusting where the purl and the knit stitches are. But I find it easy to read just from looking at the fabric, and I know how many rows are in the pattern repeat. I know what needs to be done on particular rows. Like I know row number 14 of the pattern repeat, I do this kind of thing, and the relationship between those kind of changes. So one thing to note about the pattern repeat, it is different if you are in, say, the larger group sizes versus the smaller group sizes. There's two different charts, and that's because the stitch pattern, it changes kind of proportionally for the larger sizes. Otherwise, like the motif would look really tiny on the larger sizes because more stitches required. Like for example, there's this kind of little diamond right here, and at its max width, it's 7 purl stitches. For the larger sizes, that diamond is larger, so everything is just, there's more stitches to it. But other than that, the pattern seems pretty easy to follow. There are the charts there. There's no written out instructions for doing this stitch pattern. But if you are comfortable with reading the charts, it's there. And then if you are like me and find it really intuitive, then you don't even need the charts anymore. And so I've got lots of stitch markers though for counting all my rows as usual. I'm not knitting with the pattern gauge. Mine's just a slightly different. So I have made adjustments accordingly and it's working out great. For the length of the body, so I'm knitting size extra, extra small. It says to end the stitch pattern either on the full complete repeat or halfway through the repeat. And mine worked out to perfectly to the completion of a full repeat and then moved into the 1x1 rib. And so next will be the sleeves and then the button pan. The sleeves are worked in the round, so I feel like it will be even easier to read the stitches and it will go quicker. I find sleeves are always very quick for me. I don't really get stuck on sleeve island. I'm more of a, I get stuck on body island. But amazing that it's knit on 5mm needles. And even though it's a stitch pattern and it is a little bit hard on the fingers, it's just so like very addictive knitting, this one. I find it hard to put down after I do one row and I think, oh, I should put this down. I got to do something else. But it's like, no, one more row, one more, one more. And then all of a sudden it's like, the whole body's done and everything. And so I've been really enjoying this one. I will be sad when this one is done because, I mean, like knitting wise, I am looking forward to having this finished and being the ambitious person that I am. Now I have this idea that we are going camping next month. And I thought, wouldn't this be nice to have to wear on our little camping weekend? Hopefully it doesn't smell too much like campfire, but I mean, I can wash it. But I just thought because we are going to be on the island's typically cooler in the evenings and at nighttime, be like a little stylish camping jacket. Why not? But I also want to cast on something to wear for Knit City in Toronto. I feel like part of me is like, let's do both. Do I have time? I could do it. Um, so we'll see how that goes. But that's the Esther jacket. I'm a little skinny on some of the details because I am working on a separate video for the Esther jacket. And that's also kind of why I haven't been creating some other content because some of the things I'm working on right now are kind of like long-term vlog videos. So I will share more in a separate video. But of course, we'll still share some details in my podcast episodes. So that's the Esther jacket from Petite Knit. Lion Brand's Fisherman's Wool in the color Oatmeal. Oh, one kind of amazing thing. If you are knitting the smallest size like I am, I knit almost this entire thing with one skein of Fisherman's Wool, minus the ribbing and 2 rows of the stitch pattern repeat. So just the ribbing and 2 rows is the new skein. But other than that, this is all with a single skein of Lion Brand's Fisherman's Wool. Now the skeins of Fisherman's Wool are very big. before you're like, what? Um, this is the second one that I've joined. This one is not even a complete one, so, but I don't think I'll need a complete one to finish the sleeves and the button band. But these are 227 grams or 8 ounces, 425 meters, which is still kind of crazy that 425 meters got me that far. I am amazed about that. It's just pretty neutral, a little bit cool toned, 100% wool. I really like working with this. Someone commented that it does pill a lot, so hopefully that's not the case, but whatever, pill shaver. Next whip to share is the test knit, another test knit. So of course, continuing being very motivated, lots of knitting mojo. Finished this test knit, started another one. So part of my spring and summer knitting queue was included in there was the Cognac sweater. And I did express some concerns about some yarn I had put aside, but I didn't like how the high twist fingering looked with the mohair that I had. So I decided to kind of put that on hold until I could figure out a different yarns to use for it. And then I saw that Marine from Atelier Caston was going to be put out a tester call for a cardigan version. And I thought, oh, I'd much rather have a cardigan rather than the sweater. So this cardigan is now taking the place of that sweater in my spring and summer plans. So the test knit started on the 11th. Today is the 24th. All I have left to do is finish the button band. This thing has just been flying off my needles. I wish I got a hanger out to hold this up better. I'll pop some photos in maybe. But it's knit on a really airy gauge. The pattern is 6mm needles. I've sized down because I tend to knit a little bit loose, so I'm using 5.5 to get gauge. And this is one strand of Holst Garn Super Soft with a strand of Nimbus Surrey from Sunday Fiber Co. in the color Dreamscape. This was the March colorway. And it's just a very delicate, subtle, variegated yarn. It's a little bit blown out right now, but there's just the ever so subtle pastels running all throughout. And I have chosen the option of the I-cord finishes. So I have I-cord on the end of my sleeves, end of the body. I've done one side of the double knit button band, and then what's left is the right side of the button band, and then finish off the top of the neck or the collar with I-cord. But really lovely quick knit. It is, of course, quick for me because I am knitting the smallest size and I also knit very consistently. And I've been knitting almost exclusively on this, except for times where like I couldn't work on this one, so I've been working on the Esther Jacket. It's kind of like daytime, nighttime kind of projects. Originally, I had purchased some Sandnes Garn Sunday yarn in like the bright white to pair with this mohair, and then when I looked at the yarn and it kind of reminded me of the high twist sock yarn that I was trying to use initially for the Cognac sweater. And so I decided to return that, and the suggested yarn from the pattern is Holst Garn Super Soft. So I decided to go with that, and I got the color Bleached White, and it's not like bright white. It's very similar to the Knit Picks palette Bare yarn that I have on in this cardigan, but maybe just ever so slightly, like one shade like brighter or whiter than the Knit Picks palette Bare. And so there's that. And I do like Super Soft. It's, if you've never worked with it before, you might think this is not super soft. And I've said this before. It's a very light fingering. but it blooms really nicely and it does become really soft because Darcy's Hannah cardigan is made out of just this held double, and no complaints from her about how it feels. She says it's super soft and cozy. So, but also she's not really one to ever say something is really itchy, I don't think. I don't know, she's very tolerable of the animal fibers, which I'm really glad because I prefer working with animal fibers. So it does get really soft. And then where's my, oh, here. And then the suggested fluff from the pattern is a Surrey called Cumulus from Fiberspace, I believe is the name. And the Surrey that I'm using is nearly identical in terms of how many meters per grams. So I think I've made a really good substitute by using the Sunday Fiber Co. Surrey. That is something that you do have to kind of watch out for if you are doing any sort of fluff substitutions. Depending on which Surrey that you get, there is less meters per, say, 50 grams or 25 grams than a ball of mohair, for example. Unless you find there are Surreys that have the same number of meters, but usually it's less. And Surrey is quite a bit fluffier than mohair. Like, so you can see just, it's really fluffy compared to hairy for mohair. And this combination is such a smart choice along with this large gauge because you can't really tell because the Surrey really fills in all the space. And it's just a wonderful combination. I like Surrey more than mohair. I find it softer and less irritating on my skin. So something to keep in mind if you are going to use mohair instead of Surrey, maybe get a heavier fingering weight to make up for that lack of, fill in the space. Um, if you are kind of local to the Lower Mainland or can purchase from the Lower Mainland, if you are looking for a Surrey that has a similar yardage or meterage to mohair, then I would recommend Bramble Ridge Hand Dyed. She's got her own website now, and the Surrey that she has is the same number of meters, like, what is it, 420 meters per 50 grams kind of thing, similar to what you would find for balls of mohair. So yeah, there's my yarns that I'm using for the Cognac cardigan. The deadline's not for like quite a while, so I am going to be done ahead of time. But I am looking forward to getting this off the needles so I can focus on my ambitious plans of attempting to finish the Esther jacket for a camping trip and then another cardigan for Knit City, which I'll show you the yarn in just a second. But yeah, it's going really well. I really like all the detail that's in the pattern so far. There are links to YouTube videos for all the different techniques used. Not to say that it's a very advanced pattern, but it's just there as a reference. So if you are, say, an adventurous beginner, like there's lots of links in there. And also what I did like, so this is a contiguous construction to hop down, and then you work increases in this section here, much like you would work increases on a raglan. And this was the first time I've come across in a pattern where the designer has put the increases, yes, in the written typical format, but also a table. And so you can see in each row when you're increasing in the front versus increasing in the sleeves, because it's not exactly the same all the way throughout. And I like that because that's actually how I write out increase instructions. So when I've worked on like a compound raglan, for example, I will make my own table in my notebook, showing, because I just need to know, am I increasing fronts? Am I increasing sleeves? Am I increasing backs? Are they all being increased? Are they different rates, which is what happens with a compound raglan? So it was really nice to see that there's someone else who kind of like thinks like that as well. If you don't like that, there's a typical written format in there as well. But I thought that was a nice inclusion in the pattern. I have my cardigan in a new project bag that I purchased from Wool Warehouse. It looks like crochet granny squares, and the inside is all single crochet print. And you're like, why are you using a crochet bag for a knitting bag? Don't come at me. But yeah, I thought it was really cute. And I really like the size of it. I like how wide it is. There's no pockets inside. That's fine. I tend to forget things in pockets and lose things that way. I know we talk about how much we love pockets, and then, but when it comes to project bags, I've seriously have like misplaced scissors, needles, and it's just not good for me. But it's a drawstring and it's got a little handle here. Got that from Wool Warehouse because of some other yarn I was purchasing. So I'll get into that's it for whips, right? Yes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some plans, some acquisitions I've made this month. So acquisition that I cannot share is the pre-order for the True Colors collection from Sunday Fiber Co. I ordered a sweater's quantity worth of the color Tell Me the Chartreuse on the Mist DK base. That's the base that has some cashmere in it. I plan to hold that just on its own and just make a lovely pullover sweater, probably a pullover. But very excited. Not expecting that yarn until June. So what I can share though is, sorry, trying to reach it here. Glowworm. This is some yarn I shared last month. So last month I shared this beauty of a green, this mohair from Yoriko Oki, which is local yarn, local dyer, Granville Island for all your lower mainland folks here. You can purchase online or you can go pick up at the studio on Granville Island. But the plan was to find a fingering weight strand to hold with this. Unfortunately, no matches from Yoriko herself. I did reach out to her and asked her if she had anything that she didn't list on the website that could match. But unfortunately, the options that she shared with me were too variegated for my liking. I really just want a solid yarn. I don't want to take away from the fabulous glow. So I took a chance, and based on pictures online, I chose a yarn. I chose some Cascade Heritage yarn, which is a sock yarn. It's superwash, and that doesn't say the, oh, it says on the side, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. That's fine. I'm really after just getting the right color. It came in and I thought, ooh, it looks a little bit, not as yellow as the online picture, but that's what happens when you purchase online. So I'll show you them together. So you can see that this one runs a little bit, almost slightly blue-green, and this is definitely, Glowworm's definitely a yellow-green. But it's a nice, smooth sock yarn. If you knit socks, I guess. I am not a sock knitter. And so I was worried about whether these would work well together. And I had shown in the past episode that I also have this Friends Extra Fine Merino in the color Olive. This is what I used to make my Camisole number 9 last summer. And on camera, it looks like a pretty good, decent match, but oh, it's actually, the lighting today is much better. The last episode, they looked like a really good match on camera. Now you can really see that they are different and how much darker this yarn is. So for fun, I decided to swatch up this one as well. And so this one is more of a sport weight. And so it's a little bit heavier than what I was going for. So this swatch is the Heritage yarn. And then this swatch is with the Extra Fine Merino from Hobbii. And there we go. I didn't block this one because I knew just from looking at it that I wasn't going to use it, but this one is blocked. And you can see how the Hobbii yarn kind of takes over, and now it's kind of this like dill pickle color, which is not a bad color. I'm not saying that, but not the color I was going for because it really takes away from the glowworm, and it's just not as clear and bright. It's also a little bit thick, so I'm not as into this fabric that the Hobbii yarn has created on this size needle, which is 4 millimeters. But it is a nice color, just not what I was going for. But this one maintains the brightness of the glowworm. The fabric is also really nice. It's got a nice drape to it because it is the fingering weight yarn versus a sport weight yarn. There is a little bit of like tonality created because of the difference in the color of the mohair and the Cascade Heritage yarn, but I don't mind that. And from far away, you can't really tell. So I am happy enough with this combination to proceed. So I will try to cast on this weekend, hopefully. I'm feeling optimistic that I could finish the Cognac Cardigan by the weekend. Today's Wednesday. And this is going to be a Paul cardigan, which is a pattern from Morga Knits. I made the Paul sweater, and which I really love. I love the saddle shoulders, and I'm going with the Paul cardigan because there's a particular detail in the collar. So this kind of construction, this look of this cardigan is not unique. There are other designers out there with saddle shoulder double knit cardigans. Off the top of my head, I think all the other loops, is it called like the varsity cardigan or something like that? That designer has something very similar, but it's the collar in particular of the Paul cardigan, how there's like a 2x2 rib just in the back of the collar, and then it turns into the double knit button band. And there's just something about that difference there. I don't know, I really wanted, I think it just is a really cool detail. And I did enjoy following along the Paul sweater pattern. So that's why I'm going with the Paul cardigan. And I have hit gauge, actually slightly smaller than the pattern gauge, but that is okay because there's a lot of ease built into the Paul cardigan. The smallest size, the finished circumference is 110 centimeters, which is about, I don't know, 5 centimeters or like a couple inches more than ideal. But I'm hoping that because I've come in just a little tiny bit smaller, I can get less than 110 centimeters. But if it becomes 110 centimeters, like as per pattern, then that's fine too. I thought about reworking, maybe like regrading, but I was like, I can't be bothered, especially if I want to try to knit this for Knit City, Toronto. So today is the 24th. I fly out on the 16th of May, so not a lot of time to make a cardigan, plus work on this Esther jacket. I go camping before Knit City as well. So there's like a whole weekend where I wouldn't be able to knit on this because I don't want to bring this and have it smell like campfire. We are going to the island, so we are taking the ferry there and back. So that's some time that I could be working on this as well. But I would keep this sealed in a bag in the truck so that it doesn't smell like campfire, hopefully. That's a risk that I may have to take. But that's the plan with the glowworm. I'm very excited. Why am I trying to make this for Knit City? I don't know, because I like to put crazy deadlines on myself, and there is another mom from Darcy's preschool, and she's been wearing a store-bought sweater like in this color, and every time I see her wear it for school drop-off, oh, I need my glowworm. And I think it would just be really fun to have for spring, like even late spring, versus trying to like waiting to finish this for the fall, even though of course I think I would wear it in the fall as well. It's just, it's more of a spring color and I really want to wear it. So I am gonna push myself to knit this up because yeah, it's possible. It is possible for me. I do knit every day, pretty much every day. So yeah, glowworm is coming. So I'm going to close off today's episode with some other acquisitions I made this month. It's definitely a high acquisition month. Hadn't really purchased anything January and February. So I was like looking at my spreadsheet of my finances and I was like, it's like nothing, like bam, like 500 or so dollars. Uh, oh yeah, why is it that? I forgot. I also bought from the True Colors collection the rainbow mini skein set, the full set. That was $100. The Miss DK, that was 200-ish dollars, and then add the tax. So yeah, I've been spending. So next thing I purchased was from Art of Yarn. Funny thing, so it was my birthday, and my lovely cousin who lives on the island messaged me and said, "Oh, I've got something on the way for your birthday. Just a little small something." And then I got this package from Art of Yarn. And she bought me a little Cocoa Knits like organizer and an enamel pin. And I messaged her back and I said, thank you. And then, of course, it's like, I happen to just make an order to Art of Yarn as well. Luckily, not the same thing, which could totally happen because we're like twins. We think the same like that as well. We like the same things. But luckily, I did not order what she purchased me for my birthday. But what I got here, oh, it's kind of heavy. Sandnes Garn booklets. So I know people have expressed that it's hard to get booklets and that you need to buy Sandnes Garn yarn to get these booklets. So like I hope I'm not getting anyone in trouble by saying this. Like I don't want these shops to stop selling these booklets. But I believe what happens is that Art of Yarn brings in older copies. So they must have a different vendor deal. Because I mean, I did buy Sandnes Garn yarn though. But I bought like this many booklets and I didn't have to buy that much yarn to get these booklets. But these are all old ones. So I think that's how they get around by selling these individually because they don't carry, the latest and most recent copies. And I've seen a couple other, or at least one other yarn shop has the same thing. They have old copies of Sandnes Garn available that they are able to sell individually. So maybe there's something different going on with their like vendor rules for selling these booklets. But I got 4 booklets and I don't know what Tema means, um, Tema, but I got this one because there's some pretty cool colorwork projects in here. In particular, oh gosh, these are not in English. Yeah, I'm gonna totally butcher these if I try to say it. But here's the little page at the back of the book that shows you, and it's this one in particular that I thought looked pretty cool. Colorwork cardigan. Where's this one here? Thought that was pretty cool. Kind of drop shoulder, 2-color crew neck cardigan. I don't have any yarn for it right now, but I wanted to get the pattern book because I liked that. And then I also got this one here. What did I like from this one? This one also for some more color work options. There isn't one particular pattern that I was like, yeah, I definitely want to knit that. Well, maybe it's the cover one. Again, another cardigan. I like that. Again, no immediate plans. And then this one here, which is 2302. So this is a last year's copy. I really like the one that's on the cover. So it's a mohair kind of like blouse that ties, and it's reversible. You can wear it with the ties in the front, or you can wear it with the ties in the back, and then you have this kind of high neck, kind of crew neck, boat neck, and it's got this really nice peplum. I plan on holding just one strand of fluff. You have 2 strands of tinsel mohair to make this, but I'm going to hold 1 strand of We Are Knitters Touch Me Mohair in black because that's what I have in my stash. And I think that just will go with in terms of styling and like what I would wear with it. Although I really love this color. Like this is like the sunny lime color that Sandnes Garn released, I don't know, last year or not too long ago, I guess. A couple years ago perhaps. Um, so this is something I kind of want to add to my queue for like do it in late summer so I have it to wear in the fall, or if I'm feeling really ambitious. No, no, don't. Stop. Stop, Melissa. Um, but that's the pattern that I really like in this one. And this book also has some other nice ones. I don't know if you can really see very much when I hold these up. But there's like cabled cardigan in there as well. And their usual like minimalist sweaters, some striped sweaters, brioche striped sweater in there. Or is it half fisherman's thread? I can't remember, but and then this one, 2308, another copy from last year. This is the book that has, should have put bookmarks in here. Where are you? Oh, here it is. This cardigan. This is the one that has like a different textured pattern on either side of the fronts. And then the back is seed stitch, moss stitch, double moss stitch all over the back. So that's the one that I purchased yarn for. So that pattern, it says to hold double Sunday and tin silk mohair together and use 4.5mm needles. I already have a bunch of Sunday yarn in my stash, so I will hold that double because the Sunday yarn that I have in my stash is this color here. And I just decided I wanted to use this color because also from Art of Yarn, the corresponding mohair was on sale. So I was like, oh, well then, let's just do that. So this is the Tin Silk Mohair in 9071 or the Dusty Olive. And this is the Sunday yarn in the same color. You can see the fingering weight yarn is a little bit more green, but I think they'll look good together. I like it when there's not an exact match, like a little bit of difference just for that tonality. And so I will hold this double with the Tin Silk Mohair and knit up that cardigan, and that is the plan. And then sometime in the future, I really also like from this book, there's a gingham pullover. And it's just called gingham. It's got drop shoulders, the slope shaping there. 2x2 rib, fun, yes. There's no picture of the front. Her arms are covering it. I believe it's just a round neck. But yeah, it's a gingham sweater. I know Jessie Mae Designs has a gingham sweater pattern, but that one I know it does not have short rows. And you can see the front does ride up, and I don't like that. That would just bother me. And I also don't want to buy the pattern and try to have to figure out how to add short rows to a gingham pattern. And this one does have short rows in it, I believe, or like different shaping, so you don't have that front of the neck riding up. So I like this one. I also like how it's oversized. I like the 2x2 rib. Um, this one says it's a single strand of pure gint on 4.5mm needles. I think I may attempt to use my Hobie Happy Place yarn. It's a little bit lighter weight. It's a DK weight. Pure Gint is like almost a worsted weight, I believe. Um, but it'd be kind of nice because Happy Place is a wool cotton blend, so it'd be kind of a good transitional piece because of the cotton in there. The cotton will add a little bit of weight, but it will also add some drape, which will be nice. And the colors that I have are very similar to the colors in this sample. I would just have to find a third color for like the darkest square in this gingham pattern, which I think I could use some leftover super soft that I have that's in a brown color. Could go with what I have. It's 100% wool, that's okay. And yeah, one last thing. I know I was saying in my Fibers West video, like I'm in my bright era, but really I probably should just said I'm in my fluffy era. I've also said in the past that I want to try to not use as much mohair and Surrey, like fluff in general. And everything I have and I've purchased, it's like fluffy. Like, what am I doing? So when I was ordering my yarn for my glowworm cardigan, I also ordered, because it was on sale too, some of this Rowan Kid Silk Haze. This is 50-gram balls. And I purchased two. And the plan is to hold it just a single strand and make this, what is it called? I'll throw up a picture, but it is like an I-cord strap triangle, like camisole with like a little ruffle at the bottom. And I thought it's just a cute little layering piece that you wear over t-shirts. And I bought this yarn to make it. It's called Bottle Green. And I think this is something that will look good with like black trousers or blue denim. Like it's different enough from denim color. It feels really soft. Um, Not planning on wearing it next to skin, so that doesn't really matter. And that's why I bought mohair versus suri. If something's going to be touching my skin, I prefer suri. If I'm going to be wearing it as a layer, mohair is fine. And this is something potentially to finish or cast on when I get back from Knit City, potentially. Wow, I'm like really ambitious. I have all this, my summer queue to work through as well still. I've also said I want to knit fewer items, and I don't think that's happening. I'm just am too much knitting mojo. Is that a thing? Yeah, ambitious. But that is, whoa, yarn's falling. That is everything that I have to share for the month of April. Next time I see you guys for like the next podcast episode, I will have gone to Knit City and come back. I'm not sure if I'll have enough content to do that as a separate video. So maybe there'll be a Knit City video and then a podcast episode. I don't know. I don't really plan that far in advance. I'm very much I just do whatever feels right, whatever I have time for. Um, yeah, so if you've made it this far, thank you so much for hanging out with me. And yeah, until next time, happy knitting. Bye.